Hey there, today I'm going to show you how to turn this pile of wood into a coffee table and an end table set. Now, a lot of this wood is a little bit rough cut and a little bit rough on the edges, but that's okay. I don't mind that at all. So in order to build the coffee table, we're going to need one 2x6, one 2x4, one 2x3, 6 1x4s, and 3 2x2s in 8-foot lengths. For the end tables, and there's 2 of them, we're going to need one 2x6, 2 2x4s, one 2x3, 3 1x4s, and 2 2x2s. We're also going to need some about 2-inch screws, some paint, some stain, sandpaper, and other tools. I have a saw. You can use hand tools. I'll be using an electric drill. I'll be using an impact, and I'll be using some other hand tools. Need a pencil and such. So, without further ado, I'm going to cut some 2x6s and 2x4s. Okay, as you can see, I got the 2x6 set up on the saw. I'm going to cut 4 lengths at 18 3/4 inches, and then I'm going to cut 4 lengths of the 2x4 at 17 inches each. Let's get to it. So, got my 2x6s cut. I got 4 of those at 18 3/4 inches, and my 2x4 cuts. Done. And I've got 4 of these at 17 inches. Now these are the legs, the 2x4s, and these are the cross members. So now what I like to do is kind of just inspect the wood, because as you can see here, this has got a little bit of a nick in it. That's okay. I'm just gonna put that at the back. And then for the legs, same thing, right? So you just wanna take a look and see, and this one's kind of chewed up, but that's okay. So I'm gonna put this right here, kind of like this. And I'm just going to get another leg over here. This one looks good on all sides, so it really doesn't matter where it goes. But basically, we're going to build something that looks similar to this. And that one looks pretty good too. So, this is going to be one of our legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill some holes in here, and I'm going to attach it with some screws, and I'll get back to you when that's done. Alright, so I got the legs all put together here. This is kind of what they're supposed to look like. There's 2 of them, one for each end. Eventually what's going to happen here is we're going to have a 2x3 and a 2x2 to connect these 2 together. It's going to be 37 inches long. I'm just going to explain this a little bit here. So, not sure if you can see that, but I marked the center of each 2x6 with just a light, very light, faint pencil line, just to make my life a little bit easier. Because I kind of want those to line up a little bit. You don't want them on an angle too much anyways. So the other thing I did was, to make my life super easy, was I just flushed up a 2x4 with the bottom in here and marked it on the line. Did it on both sides, and then put the screws in, lined her up a little bit. Just makes it easier so I don't have to measure it out. 2x4 width, and when it's done, it'll actually look good. So, like I said, gonna put in a 2x3 and a 2x2 in here. Just got to cut them up. We're going to cut them up at 37 inches, and we're going to need 2 of each for each side. And just going to get those cut, and then get back to you. All right, cut my 2x3s to 37 inches. Cut my 2x2s to 37 inches. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to pre-drill some holes in the end of each one of these. There's 2 of those. And there's 2 of these. And then once I pre-drill my holes, I'm going to attach it to my leg. Something like this. On the bottom, we'll have that. So let's get that taken care of right now. Alright, so we got our boards mounted now for the sides. there's a 2x3 on the top and a 2x2 on the bottom. Again, 37 inches long. I used to clamped it this way to hold them in place, actually on both sides. And then what I did was I continued my line that I had on my old board onto my new board here, and I drilled 2 holes in the top, and then I did this so on the bottom as well, but only drilled 1 hole. Did that over here as well as on the back side. The other thing I did, you don't have to do it, but I like to do it, is I added a cross member in the middle. Basically, pretty straightforward. This is 44 inches if you're using my dimensions. And then from there, half of that's 22. This board is a 2x3, half that board is 1 1/4. So I just mark them, line them up, continue my line from here over to here, drill 2 holes, put some screws in it. Then what we're going to do is I already pre-cut 7 of these boards at 46 inches. And they're going to run this way with a 1-inch overhang. Over here, we'll put 2, 2, and 2 on the top for screws. And I pre-drill them all. And then there's 9 of these. And these are 21 1/4, which is the exact width of this. And what they're going to do is they're just going to sit in here, and I'm going to evenly space out all 9 of them. So I've got a lot of drilling and screwing to do. So let me get to that and I'll get back to you. So I got the top on. It's what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boards at 46 inches. I ended up just putting 2 screws on this end, 2 screws on that end, and then 1 in the middle. So I also did not measure that correctly. These boards are 21 1/4, and this is 21 3/4. The 21 1/4 is for the end tables that we have yet to build. So I'm going to have to cut new ones for here, and I'm going to use these ones on the end table. So, but again, I need 9 of them at 21 3/4, and then I'm just going to evenly space them all out, put 1 screw in each end, pre-drill the hole, and that should be that. And then after all that's done, sand and stain. Alright, so we got our 9 slats cut at the proper length now, which is 21 3/4. And they're in there, but they're actually not screwed in because I'm not going to mount them. Just easier when you're standing and sanding. So all I'm going to do when I do mount them is I'm just going to put this board in here, which is a piece of a 1x4, and I'm just going to evenly space it along, and there's going to be a little bit left over at the end, so then I'll just eyeball them up thereafter. So with those cut, now all I want to do is I'm going to put a decorative X in the end here, and so I need to get that measured and cut, and then this table's done. So it's time to put the X's on the end. I've done the one side completely, but I figured I'd show you kind of how I do this one. So basically what you want to do, the easiest thing to do, is take this board right here and just lay it across and clamp it with a set of clamps, right? And then I scribe it from the back so I know the distance. But the angle is 31.6 degrees, and I know that. So all I do is I just line the edge of my board up here and line it at the bottom there, clamp it on the outside, and then I go into the back and I scribe it. And then for this side, all I do is take this board and put it on the other board, mark it, again, it's 31.6 degrees. And then what I want to do is I want to slide them in so they both make an X. And there'll be one back here and one in here, like this one. But I've already cut it. And then all I do is I just mark here and I mark here. So now I have my pieces that go here and here. And it is that straightforward. So all you're going to want to do now is simply take the pieces and you're going to drill. So you put this piece in, like I have, and I drilled here, not up here, but here. and you want to make it in line with the screws that are already there. So everything's in line. And then put your screw in. And then the same thing goes for the bottom here. You kind of want it up top. So you want a thicker part of the wood, because if you go too far down towards the bottom, you'll actually stick out. And then when I'm doing these ones, and once they're cut, when I'm doing them, I like to just do the top one first. And then what I'll do is I'll drill here, and then I'll hold this here, and then I'll come up with the screw on the bottom. And then when I put this one in, I'll do almost something identical. I'll drill and I'll put the screw in here, and that'll hold it in place. And then what I'll do is I'll drill and I'll put the screw up from the bottom. And that way you won't be able to see them unless you're absolutely lying on the floor. And yeah, so let me just do that, and then go from there. So this pretty much wraps up this portion of the table. The only thing left to do is I'm going to install the slats after they've been sanded and stained. And then I'm going to sand and distress the sides, and sand the top down and stain it. But I'm not going to do any sanding or staining until after the end tables have been made. So we're going to move on to the end tables. Now the end tables are going to be about 18 inches tall, and then they're going to be 20.5 inches by 20.5 inches. They're going to be pretty much identical to this. They're gonna have the X's on the side. They're gonna have a flat top just like this. They're just gonna be a little bit smaller. So let me get some wood out from underneath this table, and let's see about getting some cut. In order to build our end tables, we're gonna need to cut up our wood. Now, the numbers I'm gonna give you are for one end table. So basically double it, because we're gonna be building 2 end tables. But to start, we need 4 2x4s at 18 inches for our legs. We need 4 2x6s at 15.5 inches as we're crossing between our legs. We need 2 2x2s at 11.5 inches that'll join our legs together. And we'll also need 2 2x3s at 11.5 inches, again, to join the legs. We'll need 4 2x2s at approximately 2 feet to build the X that goes along the decorative end there. We will need 3 1x4s at 18.5 inches for the slats along the bottom. And for the top, we need 6 1x4s at 20.5 inches. So I've pre-assembled one so we can kind of see what we're going for. And yeah, as you guessed it, it is almost identical to the coffee table, just a little bit smaller. So this one's ready for sanding, and this one needs to be assembled. So I'm going to assemble the second one, and then I'll move on to the sanding. All right, so got the end table top on there, and just wanted to show you that kind of how I did this again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boards at 20.5 inches. And then what I did was identical to the coffee table. Is I measured in from this edge 2 3/4 of an inch, and then I just drew a line all the way down. And then from the edge of each board, it's roughly about an inch in, and I just made sure that they were all evenly spaced. So then I also cut my slats for the bottom there, which are 18.5 inches. And to mount these, all we're going to do is we're just going to simply go like this, and then we're going to eyeball this one in the middle. Kind of just like evenly space it based on our eye. I mean, you could measure it if you want, but whatever. I'm not going to mount those yet, just because I need to, they're a lot easier to sand and stain when they're not in there. So the only thing left to do on this table is I'm going to put my decorative X on there, and then a little bit of sanding and some painting and some staining. I'm going to show you how to do the X again, this time without the cut pieces, so you can kind of see. So basically what I tried to explain before is I cut these at 2 feet, which is, you know, I just measured out and made sure I had enough for an overlap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this board here, and I'm going to line it up with the corner on the top, and I'm just going to clamp it there. So it goes there. I'm going to take another clamp, and I'm going to line it up at the bottom in the corner as well. And then I'm going to set a clamp in there. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark the back of it so that I know where the length is. And I'm just going to simply remove these. And there we have it. And this should be about a 36-degree angle if you're using the same measurements as I am. But so cut that on the chop saw. Once it's cut, the simplest thing to do is take your other one, just take it and then scribe it, and then cut that. Again, it's about 36 degrees. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our pieces of wood, and as I mentioned before, is we're going to install the one piece in first, push it kind of to the back, and then we'll install this piece here, like this. Put it in place, it's snug, but that's okay. And then what we want to do is we just want to go like this. And then we take it out. And then we're going to cut that. And then that'll make for the half pieces of the X, and then we'll install those. So let me get these cut. I'll be ready to install them. So I cut the piece. This angle ended up being 15 degrees. So all I did was I laid it on the saw, and then I just lined my saw up with my pencil mark just to make sure. But so to install these, all we're going to do is, as I mentioned before, we're going to install this main one here. And then I'm going to drill here and make sure I'm in line with my screws on this side. And then I'm going to drill here, making sure I'm in line with my screws on this side. And I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to drill about here, in line with that screw. And then what I'm going to do is pre-drill and then just mount a screw up in there, so that it will be hidden when I add this piece, which is going to go in there. And I'm just going to simply do the same thing, drill in here, make sure it's in line, and then I'm going to come up with a screw from the bottom. I'll pre-drill that out, and then I'll just put a screw in there, and then that'll hold that up. So I'm going to get that installed, and I'm going to cut the other side and get it installed, and then we're almost done with this one. Alright, so the decorative X's are installed now, and one of the things I wanted to mention about the decorative X's is I don't flush mount them, I just mount them back in a little bit, just adds that little bit of extra to it. You don't actually have to add the X's in if you don't want to. I do, but I've also done them for people where they've had just some columns in here and they look okay too, but I personally prefer the X. So, 2 end tables and coffee table are all assembled, ready for sanding. I'm going to paint, as I explained earlier, and then distress the sides. The top and the slats are going to be stained. So I'll show you that when we're done. But one of the couple of things I wanted to go over about this is the screws I used. So for the top and the slats, I actually used 1 1/4 inch screws. The ones that are in there now are only temporary. I'm going to use a little bit more of a decorative screw. I think I might have mentioned that already. And then for the framing itself, I went ahead and used a 2 1/2 inch screw. So the spacing on the screws, as you can see, I drew a line. That's actually 2 3/4 of an inch in, and then 2 3/4 of an inch. And then with from the edge of the board in. I just used this piece of wood, which is actually just shy of an inch, and then just went along and marked it as I went. And then I used a rafter square to just draw my line. And then as I added the board, I just lined it up again and again and again and again and moved my way along. I pre-drilled all my holes because, especially when you're dealing with these ones down here in the bottom, sometimes the board cups, and if you put a screw through it, it'll crack. So pre-drilling is always nice. And I guess the next time you see these things, they'll be finished up. So as you can see, our project is done. And if you ask me, it looks great. I went with a matte white for the frames. It's just simple ceiling paint that I had left over. And I went with a weather gray stain for the top and the slats. Now before I go, I just want to go over the final materials list with you and the overall finished dimensions. So the finished dimensions for the coffee table were 46 inches by 23 3/4 inches by 17 3/4 inches. Now I know I previously stated that I was going to use 1 1/4 inch screws, but I actually ran out of those. So I ended up using 1 1/2 inch black screws. And I used 53 of those on the coffee table for the top and the slats. I used 40 2 1/2 inch screws for the framing. I used 1 2x6, 1 2x4, 1 2x3, 2 2x2s, and 6 1x4s in 8-foot lengths for the coffee table. Now the finished dimensions for both the end tables are 20 1/2 inches by 20 1/2 inches by 18 3/4 inches. And again, I used 60 1 1/2 inch screws and 72 2 1/2 inch screws. I used 2 2x6s, 2 2x4s, 1 2x3, 3 2x2s, and 5 1x4s. Now I had a lot of fun doing this project, and I hope you did too. And until next time, take care.